They say you should never waste good beer. But in 1814, London had more than it could handle, or swim through. This is the story of a disaster so bizarre it sounds like something out of a comedy sketch. Except it wasn't. For the residents of St. Giles Rookery, one of London's most notorious slums, a bad day at the office for a local brewery turned into a literal wave of destruction. And it was all thanks to this, a single 2-ton iron rivet. To understand how a river of beer could flood a major city, we need to go back to the heart of industrial London. We're here, in a digital reconstruction of the Meux Co brewery on Tottenham Court Road. This wasn't your friendly neighborhood microbrewery. This was an industrial powerhouse, a cathedral of fermentation. And at its heart stood the vats. These weren't just big barrels. They were wooden monsters, some holding over 1 million liters of fermenting porter. The pressure inside these vats was immense, held in check by massive iron hoops, each one weighing hundreds of pounds. Our story begins on a seemingly ordinary afternoon, October 17, 1814. Inside the brewery, an overseer is making his rounds. He notices something unsettling. One of the largest vats, a 22-foot-tall behemoth containing over 1.2 million liters of dark, rich porter, is showing signs of stress. A single iron hoop, one of several girding the massive wooden structure, has slipped. It's a common issue, and a letter is even sent to the brewery partner, Mr. Meux, to have it repaired. But there's no sense of immediate panic. These things happened. The vats were strong. The hoops were stronger. Or so they thought. Around 5:30 p.m., the overseer hears a sound he will never forget. Not a creak, not a groan, but a sharp, explosive crack, like a gunshot echoing through the cavernous brewery. That single 2-ton iron rivet gives way. The hoop it was holding snaps. And then, a catastrophic chain reaction begins. The immense pressure is suddenly unleashed. One by one, the other iron bands burst in rapid succession. The 22-foot wooden wall of the vat explodes outward. Suddenly, a 1.2 million liter tsunami of porter is unleashed. That's enough to fill 3.5 Olympic swimming pools. But this wave isn't chlorinated water. It's a dark, thick, frothy torrent, traveling with the force of a battering ram. The initial blast is so powerful it smashes through the brewery's thick rear brick wall, which was over 2 feet thick. The beer, now mixed with bricks, timber, and debris, pours out into the surrounding streets. The target of this boozy tidal wave was St. Giles Rookery, a densely packed slum right behind the brewery. This wasn't the London of grand townhouses and elegant parks. This was a maze of narrow streets, crowded tenements, and subterranean cellars where entire families lived in poverty. For them, there was no warning. The wave, estimated to be around 15 feet high, crashed into New Street, George Street, and Tavistock Court. It hit with such force that it completely demolished 2 houses. The sheer weight of the liquid caused walls to collapse, flooding basements and ground floors in seconds. Imagine the scene, a torrent of dark, sticky liquid surging through the alleyways, carrying barrels and wreckage with it. People who were simply going about their evening cooking dinner, talking with family, were suddenly caught in a nightmare. Many of the casualties were in basement dwellings, which filled up almost instantly, offering no chance of escape. One of the most heartbreaking stories is that of a wake being held for a young boy in a basement. The beer flooded the room, and the mourners, including the boy's mother, were swept away and drowned. In total, 8 people, mostly women and children, lost their lives. In the immediate aftermath, chaos reigned. The air was thick with the smell of beer and the cries of the injured and trapped. Rescue efforts were frantic. People were pulled from the wreckage, covered in the dark, sticky fluid. The brewery itself was a scene of devastation, with the giant vats lying in ruins. The financial loss for Meux Co was enormous, estimated at over £23,000, which would be millions in today's money. But what happened next is where the story takes an even stranger turn. As news of the beer flood spread, a curious phenomenon occurred. According to popular legend and contemporary accounts, people from all over London flocked to the scene. But they weren't just gawkers. Many arrived with any container they could find, pots, pans, buckets, even their own hands to scoop up the free-flowing porter from the streets. For the desperately poor of London, a river of beer, even one mixed with mud and debris, was an opportunity too good to pass up. It was a macabre street party amidst a scene of death and destruction. There were even reports of one person dying from alcohol poisoning in the days that followed, having consumed so much of the scavenged beer. If you're going to go, go happy, I suppose. The official response was, in hindsight, almost as unbelievable as the event itself. An inquest was held to determine who was to blame for the tragedy. Was it negligence on the part of the brewery? Was someone responsible for the deaths of 8 people? The brewery's owners argued that they had taken every reasonable precaution and that the failure of the vat was entirely unforeseeable. After deliberating, the coroner's jury returned a verdict that has become legendary. They declared the London beer flood to be an act of God. Apparently, God really likes dark ale. This verdict meant the brewery was not held liable for the deaths or the destruction. They even successfully petitioned Parliament to have the taxes they had already paid on the millions of liters of lost beer refunded, saving the company from bankruptcy. The London beer flood of 1814 faded into a bizarre historical footnote. The brewery was rebuilt and continued to operate for another century before being demolished in 1922. Today, the Dominion Theatre stands on the site, with no plaque or monument to commemorate the strange and tragic day when the streets ran not with water, but with beer. The event did, however, have a lasting impact. The disaster prompted a gradual shift in the brewing industry, moving away from these massive, inherently risky wooden vats toward more durable and reliable lined concrete vessels. It was a hard-learned lesson in industrial safety, paid for with a wave of porter and the lives of 8 unfortunate Londoners. So the next time you enjoy a pint of dark stout, spare a thought for the Great Beer Flood. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes you really can have too much of a good thing. And it proves that truth is often stranger and sometimes more intoxicating than fiction. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the weirdest corners of history. See you next time.